What up YouTube, my name is rVader and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny deck profile. Today I'll be going into my version of the budget mono blue control style deck, which means that aside from the hero where I have chosen to use rVader, there will be no legendaries featured in this deck profile. If you're looking for that, go to all of the other great YouTubers and podcasts and whatever the Star Wars Destiny community can bring up with. So without further ado, let's go ahead. For the battlefield, I'm using the Emperor's Throne Room. This allows you to, when claimed, switch any one of your dice to a side showing special and then resolve that die. Of course, that means that I must have a special on my field at all times, so I have been using Kylo Ren as an elite with this deck, which costs 13 points. Combined with Darth Vader's 16 points for a single die, you will have a 29-point deck with 24 health to start you off with, and the constant ability to roll melee damage due to you having 4 out of 12 sides showing melee, and the availability of the special for Emperor's Throne Room. Vader is a good control character because he reduces the opponent hand size every turn. His ability could just as well have said your opponent's hand size is now 4, because every turn you'll activate Vader and then they'll have to discard a card. And Kylo Ren digs in well there by making your opponent want to discard any expensive cards so that they do not take that burn. They both have resources, they both have shields. Kylo Ren's downside is that you must pay for his 2 damage, meaning that you will be going for the 1. So, these are the characters now going into the events of the deck. We're using Close Quarters Assault. I'm using one of these. You count the amount of dice you have showing melee damage and then discard the same amount of cards from your opponent's hands when this card is resolved. Meaning that when you have just rolled these and they are showing melee damage, you don't even have to start hitting, then you pop this and you reduce their hand size by 2 this turn already. This is a phenomenal card for this deck, and I can even recommend going up to 2, currently playtesting at 1 and having the most success with that, but it definitely did well at 2 as well. 1 Enrage, deal 1 damage to one of your blue characters to gain a resource, is pretty self-explanatory in any blue deck. Aside from the fact that this already has a lot of resource control, meaning that the pump 1 damage into one of your characters actually doesn't benefit quite as well as it did when I was, for example, using Raider with the Tusken Raider, which is the usual Vader build. So yeah, 1 Enrage, 1 Deflect, because at your local game stores you will be running 2 Deflect, because you'll be seeing aces of Jango Veers and Jango Bala-Trooper. But this isn't the case at our local store, because most people here are running melee-based decks. So a single Deflect, and 9 out of 10 games I get to pitch this. If your LGS has more ranged attuned decks, you will be running 2 Deflects. Feel Your Anger is the basic removal for Blue Villain. It counts the amounts of blanks your opponent's dice are showing, and then you get to remove other dice, or those dice, any dice, that show anything. So what's good about this is that if your opponent has bad rolls, you make the day even worse. The thing is, this only works if your opponent has bad rolls, and such is a mitigation for 1. That I think is a bit, actually sometimes too expensive, because you rarely ever get to use it if you're against an opponent who isn't unlucky. Running a single No Mercy, because this deck isn't an aggro and you actually want your blue cards in your hand. This, however, still finishes off such annoying pests as Grievous during the early game, meaning that he doesn't get to take you down with your own swords. Really, really great. Now for the double events, I'm running 2 Use the Force. Spot blue character, no problem, you got the 2. To turn a die to any side. This is both mitigation against your opponent to make sure you don't take those very heavy blows that could have been modified using jetpacks, but also to ensure that you go into those free damage on Vader and that you get to take your opponent down as fast as possible. Running 2 Isolation for character die removal. This will be a great card once people try to run Emperor Palpatine. This will be the thing that stops him from actually working, since he can have a maximum of 2 dice. This doesn't work quite as well against those ranged character decks, because most of the weapon guns do have their own single range damage dice that doesn't require modification. So yeah, there they don't get quite as good, but it works very well against like mill decks, against Jabba and Padme. It's really, really great. Running 2 Force Strikes for putting the damage out on Vader, turning his die to a 3 and then just slamming your opponent in the head with it. The power of the Force, since this is a mono blue deck, is really great because it transforms one of your 1 dice on Kylo Ren or your 2 melee damage on Vader into 6 damage, and that's just insane for 1 cost. It's one of the best events in mono blue cards decks, and I can honestly say I wouldn't have it any other way than at 2. This is a personal tech for me because, yeah, the next card here is pretty strange to most people. I run 2 Abandon All Hope because it costs 2 resources and it says force an opponent to choose to either lose all resources or discard their entire hand. Now, what they actually lose here is the opportunity to choose because you've already chosen for them. You know they'll get rid of their resources. There's no way, unless they're playing a full Stormtrooper deck, that they'll be using the option to discard their hand, because the Stormtroopers will require money to shoot most of the time, or the hired gun as well. But otherwise, they will lose their resources, and this works incredibly well in the current meta with such decks as Hyperloop out there, because you can take away those resources before the Millennium Falcon comes out and starts the Hyperloop combo. Really great. So I can't stress this enough. Running mono blue, or actually running any blue control decks, you will want to Abandon All Hope. That is not just my personal opinion, that is what most people I've played against are like, oh damn, I should have done that. So yeah, keep that up. A single Emperor's Favor. We're going into the supports now. This increases your hand size by 1. This pays for itself after just 1 round. Then you will have drawn 2 cards using this 1 support that just keeps beaming you up faster than your opponent. The weakness here is, of course, that you get the weakness to mill, but it does empower such cards as No Mercy, and enables you to faster get those control cards that you will need to claim the victory. Running 2, it binds all things to reduce the cost of blue upgrades is pretty self-explanatory in blue decks. Do this so that you won't have to keep paying 4 for your Mind Probes if you are unlucky with your Holocrons. A single power of the dark side to reroll your dice. This is actually where you just go for like, oh, okay, my Mind Probe didn't special, well now it did. Or maybe it didn't and you still got something else that could have been even more useful to you. Running into the upgrades now, I'm running a single Immobilize. This is for protection purposes mostly. I mainly use it for the action to remove its die, turn a die to a side showing blank. So you can use this in combination with Feel Your Anger to set your opponent up for card removal. 2 Sith Holocron is the most expensive card aside from Darth Vader in this deck, and I should point out that Darth Vader can easily be replaced with an elite Count Dooku, which will do just as well actually with this deck mostly, sometimes even better. So, Double Sith Holocron is the main upgrade for any blue villain. It has 2 special sides, a focus die, +1 resource and 2 blanks. Its ability is to switch its position with any blue upgrade in your hand, meaning that you get a free Mind Probe, you get a free Force Throw. There's really nothing not to like about this card, and it will only continue getting better as we see the game expand into more booster packs. Running 2 Force Training, this is an ability upgrade, which means that it gets free with the Sith Holocron. It has a 1 range damage side, which isn't really good, but it does have the blue +2 modified melee, a focus, a resource, a special, and a blank. The special is what you really want to go for here, and you'll want to take the 1 shield, 1 damage mostly with this deck to control damage that you receive and destroy your opponent before they get to take you down. Running 2 standard lightsabers because they have redeploy, meaning that if you're about to lose either eKylo or Vader, the other one will take over and just deal that burst damage down. Also, its resources can be pumped up to 6 with this deck, used with Power of the Force, which is just insane. Like 1 cost, gain 6 resources is incredible. 1 resource, 2 resource you'll have to pay here actually to do 6 damage, but it's still a really good card with a very good special that can be resolved through Emperor's Throne Room. Running double Force Throw, this is very hard to get around my LGS because I live in Denmark, Europe, and we didn't get that many boosters or starter decks, but I've managed to get my hand on 2 Force Throws, and it's just grand because it has 2 specials again, which is always great, and the special says to remove a die, deal damage equal to its value. So what you want to do with this is, of course, you want to remove those free damage from Grievous and smash them into his own face. The 2 last cards of this deck is the Mind Probe. It deals damage to a character equal to the amount of cards in the opponent's hands, meaning that you can get to do some very early offense. You can actually win if you just, like, it becomes your turn, your opponent doesn't have much health left, claim the battlefield, turn that to the special, deal those 4 to 5 damage, win the game. It is so very good that I cannot stress enough. You should have 2 Mind Probes in any mono blue, or actually at least 1 Mind Probe in any blue deck, because it is neutral. So that was my Star Wars Destiny deck profile for mono blue. Vader, Kylo Ren, the apprentice and the protege and the master. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. My name is Radiant Sealer, and I'll see you next time.